real privilege to welcome all of you here to the U.S. Frontiers of Engineering, or FOE program. And what better place could we possibly hold it than here at Google, which in so many ways epitomizes what we try to be about in our organization, in this activity, and certainly in our profession.
The National Academy of Engineering, the NAE, has been running these Frontiers of Engineering programs since about 1995. And the idea is so deceptively simple that people always say, "No, what are you really trying to do?" But the object's very straightforward. We get about 85 of the best, most innovative, accomplished, sort of young to mid-career engineers, generally speaking under about 45, from a lot of disparate fields. And we bring them together for about 2.5 days, and during that time they hear talks, 2 talks per session, on 4 different fields which fundamentally have nothing to do with each other. And then you stand back and the good part of the meeting begins, which is the dialogue among people learning from each other across sectors. Half the people are from business, half from academia, national labs and so forth, and across disciplines. And it's just kind of a little electric magic that then occurs. And our goal is very simple. We want them to get to know each other. We want them to get to have some understanding of the breadth and excitement of what's going on in engineering today. And we hope that they will form sort of an alumni network and keep in touch afterwards. So that's really, it's that easy, and to have done this here being immersed in the Google environment, I think has just been terrific. Well, we're not a very wealthy organization, so we have to go with our tin cup from door to door. And seriously, we try to get organizations, mostly industry, occasionally a university or a national lab, but mostly industry, to sort of as an in-kind contribution to our work, host us and give us a nice place to hold the symposium. And of course, in the meantime, implicitly or explicitly, our attendees get to know a little bit about what the company's all about, and the company gets to know a little bit about them and about the NAE. So I think everybody wins. Well, the goals of every year's symposium is just to cross all these bridges with some of our most creative young engineers. And I've attended quite a few of these now, and I must say this is as good, if not the best I've ever. I think the group has just really been inspired by each of their members, and the conversations have gone on. In all the Frontiers of Engineering symposia I have attended, I've not once seen a session where we didn't have to cut off the discussion. That's always my measure. And we had a lot of additional excitement and interest this year, literally by being here at Google, because after all, this represents what it is the NAE tries to promote. You have an extraordinary organization that started because of an idea that came in an embryonic form through a research university grant sponsored by NSF here at Stanford, and eventually grew to be an organization that helped our economy, but more than that, has really changed the way all of us sort of work and think and do things. So being in that environment's helped a lot. The explicit way that Google helped us all to understand what the company's about today with these amazing lightning talks. I think we had 6 people with 10 minutes each to talk about what they've done. And what that did for me, and I assume for everybody else, is it sort of, with a relatively broad brush, paints a picture of what's going on. And I will be honest, even though I have friends and colleagues here at Google, and I've read a lot, I use Google all the time, but these lightning talks really help me grasp what it is you're doing with these massive, massive amounts of data. and how fields like speech recognition and language translation and so forth are simply being done in a way that you couldn't do before without the access to these truly unimaginably massive amounts of data. So that's the main thing I took away. It's very interesting, very exciting. I think actually the one that fascinated me the most was the recognition and translation of languages. It's something humankind's dreamed about for a long time, and it's really becoming a reality now in ways that we never guessed. And I was particularly interested in the ability with this amount of data even to learn a lot about rather obscure languages. And so I don't know whether I'm going to say that was my favorite, but let's put it this way. That was a guy I went up and grabbed at the cocktail hour and talked to him for another 20 minutes. I don't want to sound overly idealistic, but the world today is just full of problems. And the origin of most of those problems are we don't understand each other. So I'd like to think, while it's not going to come tomorrow, or it's not going to necessarily fit into a little box in my pocket, that a lot of this work is going to do two things. One is it's going to create some new pathways for helping people at the sort of health level, and people with cognitive problems and so forth and so on. But also I'd like to believe that in the long term it will provide us tools that we can really bridge across cultural and historical gaps and maybe get to know each other and understand each other better instead of lobbing missiles at each other. Well, first of all, to be honest, today there are not enough powerful, intellectually deep and broad research arms in U.S. companies. There are a lot of good reasons for that, but Google has been one of the few companies that has maintained really important research. On the other hand, you're very unique in that your research and your business are almost one and the same, but still it sets a standard. And right now, almost all of the fundamental, curiosity-driven, long-time horizon research in the United States being done in universities. There are almost no other games in town. And so a few companies that started in the sort of IT space like Google are about the only exceptions to that today. So you yourself play a very important role, but I also hope that the rest of our industry catches the wave, catches the message that these investments in what might seem like pretty abstract, pretty long-term, pretty curiosity-driven stuff has turned out to be great business, because I think we need it in other domains. And that's why, in the sessions at this Frontiers of Engineering, you range from semantic processing to how to build and operate green structures and buildings, and so that's the way in which we can learn from each other. But you still have to be generating new knowledge and new young people with new ideas and capabilities if you're going to move the economy forward. I happen to have a lot of sort of layperson's interest in architecture, and during the years I was president of MIT, we invested a lot in creating new buildings that really changed the environment and the way people mix and think, and what you see here at Google really epitomizes that. So those are the two things that jump out at me, and then underneath it all, of course, is just a lot of active, bright, excited young people running around. That's what the world's about.